The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. This is Dave Hondel. My guests tonight are terrific actors that can be seen starring in the new movie from Lionsgate called The Little Mermaid. Lydia, Helen, and Mike Markoff, welcome back to the show, both of you.
Hi. Thanks for having
me. Happy to be here.
Well, it's great to have you both. And, I know it's getting kind of late in the UK, so thank you, Lydia, for jumping on here. I know it's kind of late there, but Little Mermaid, I know it wrapped a while ago, and, it's got to be great for you to see it being released finally.
Yeah, no, God, it just feels like simultaneously like a really long time ago and only yesterday when we were in the Caribbean shooting. So, but yeah, really exciting that it's finally come out and everyone gets to see it.
Absolutely. Well, I know I'm excited to see it as well. And, Mike, it's not the Disney version of Little Mermaid, obviously. And it's, I guess loosely based on the Hans Christian Andersen novel from the 1830s. Talk about the darkness of this. And was it when you went through the script? I mean, what did you think of it, first of all? And second of all, how did you put your spin on that, version of the Little Mermaid?
Yeah, well, I was really impressed with the script because I guess, when initially I got involved, I'm like, oh, here's this dark version of The Little Mermaid. What's going on here? Is this going to be like kitschy or cheesy? And the story was actually very well written because Lee Scott, the director and the writer, he took Hans Christian Andersen's tale there and kind of wove in a bit of what he's passionate about, which is Lovecraft. And so what you have, particularly the story of Dagon, and he found these really interesting and intricate ways to interweave this story together between an ancient deity, sea god, and the concepts of mermaids and sirens from the original tale. And so when I read it, I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. And while it is a dark or more adult retelling of the Little Mermaid story, also just by virtue that our mermaid's an adult, not quite little, but although she is small in stature, but very much an adult. Yeah, what I found really interesting about reading it was actually it's not like dark and scary for the sake of like being scary. It's actually a very adventurous adult kind of oriented tale, which is to say, a little bit of fun in the sun, Indiana Jones, lightheartedness, a very kind of thriller-oriented anti-hero antagonist in our mermaid, and all the while, honestly, just a movie that's just a lot of fun and also earnest about itself at the same time.
Lydia, did you do a lot of research? Did you read the story again, the Hans Christian Andersen one, just to kind of get a feeling for the baseline of the movie?
Yeah, I did. I really love the original fairy tale. I love the original Disney cartoon. It was my favorite. She was my favorite Disney princess, Ariel. So, love that, and that's obviously completely different. But then I think pretty young, actually, probably about 6 or 7, I was reading the original where she makes the bargain with the sea witch, and every time she steps on land, so she gets the legs, but every time she steps on land, it's like 1,000 knives going up her legs. So it's this really insane caveat to getting the legs. And then the condition that the sea witch gives her is you have to fall in love with this prince, he has to fall in love with you, and then you have to kill him, and that's how you get to keep your legs. And in the end she can't do it, so she actually commits suicide by jumping off the boat, and then she ends up getting a soul, because her whole desire was that she wanted a human soul, because mermaids didn't have human souls in the original story. Yeah. It's very dark, and I love dark fairy tales. All fairy tales are sort of dark by nature in their original form. But so reread that a couple of times, thought a lot about the kind of world that my character would come from, which is I mean, you think, oh yeah, horror mermaid, and you know, she wouldn't have a backstory, but so I created this whole backstory for her, and you know, this kind of society that she comes from, of mermaids that have perhaps been pushed to the brink of extinction by humans. So for my character, Aurora, humans are they're like the villains of her story. Is, you know, her world's been destroyed, and you know, these mer people were once ruling the world, and humans have fucked it all up. So she's got to come in and fix it. So that was kind of how I came in with my fun little backstory for her.
Well, do you know the backstory that you created? I mean, is that something you keep to yourself? Do you keep that internally, or do you ever tell like the directors and people on set? I mean, your backstory so they know it as well. I mean, is that something that you internalize?
No, I told everyone. I was like,
Okay.
this is Aurora's backstory. She's you know, she's a mermaid royalty of this society. And I was like, hey Lee, does this backstory fit? And he's like, yeah, it's cool.
That's great. Mike, do you do the same thing when you create your characters? You know, not just this one particularly, but for any character, do you create a backstory like that?
Yeah. Always. Sometimes it kind of creates itself in my mind, and sometimes I really have to put a lot of work into it. I don't really typically communicate it unless it becomes like necessary. Like if we're doing a scene and I have an idea for somewhere that the scene could go, I would maybe talk to the director. Well, you know, I was kind of thinking that part of this character's history, you know, perhaps he would do this or react this way. But what's also kind of funny is sometimes writer directors will like hand you a backstory, and I'll be like, oh, great, thank you very much, and I'll be like,
Yeah.
maybe it'll be awesome, but that's one part of the job that I really get to personalize, and it's all, you know, it's all in my head anyway. So yeah, I don't typically share the backstory with other people, though, you know, unless it becomes very relevant.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. You know, I was just curious from both of your processes. So the other thing is, you know, with Lydia and both of you, Mike, too. You know, since this movie is wrapped, I mean, you both have done projects here and there. You know, both before and after that. So when you have like a project like this that ends a while ago, and you're waiting for the editing and you're waiting for the post production, distribution, and the whole thing that goes on with actors, that, you know, do you ever just kind of put that to the side and you finish it, go on to the next thing? And is it easy to pivot to the next project when you do something that's dark like this? Is it easy to pick up the next script and go on to the next thing and kind of put that to bed, so to speak, until it's ready to come back out again? You know, Lydia, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, this one it was really sad to wrap on this one, because this was my first lead role in a bigger budget feature, and the whole experience was very magical. It was very it's Caribbean island and fantastic, and gotten so well with everyone, and got to be mermaid, and that was fucking incredible. And it was really sad. It felt very much just like it was a fantastic first big film experience for me. But luckily I've kept in touch with the cast and crew, and we're all still mates. And I think what was quite nice was I didn't find that some roles you do are quite, you know, very, very emotional and almost a little bit traumatic. So I've done some films that, you know, you get a bit of a weird feeling afterwards, but this was only good feelings afterwards, and, you know, only positivity. And so that was a really good experience all in all. And it was sad. It was sad to wrap.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, Mike?
Yeah, it was sad to wrap. This was sometimes you do a film and it's really like an adventure. And I remember communicating to Lydia when we were on like our last couple days, and you know, like we're also like shooting a lot very quickly, and sometimes the days are long and it's hot, and you're feeling like all the oppressive hard work of it. And at the end of the day, you know, Lydia and I would be like, you know, having a cocktail or something like that. I'd be like, I'm gonna miss this so much. I already know, like, I'm gonna be looking back on this in a few weeks and be like, oh man, we were in the Caribbean and this little island, everyone kind of grinding together, making this movie. But to answer the earlier part of your question, it's like you have really no choice but to kind of like sort of forcibly let it go, because the cause and effect is so wide, right? You do something and then it comes out a year and a half later, 2 years later. It's nowhere near your control. And because of that, I kind of definitely turned into more of like a process over product kind of focused actor, where it's like just focus on the job in front of me, and hey, if this movie does great, that's cool. Will it, every time you do something, you're like, oh, is this gonna shift the winds in my favor for my career, or is this gonna allow me to do this or that? And I don't really have too much control over that, because you never know exactly how a movie's gonna come out. But I'll tell you this, and I haven't watched The Little Mermaid yet, but I had a hell of a good time making it. It felt right while we were doing it,
Yeah.
and I thought it was so, yeah, it was just, for some reason, Eric's thoughts were my own thoughts, and his feelings were my own feelings so much of the time, without me having to like stretch too hard. And it's really nice when instinctually things work out like that. And Lydia and I had this really fantastic adventure making this, and a lot of the story really hinged on our relationship and how we work together. And from the get-go, Lydia and I, worked really great together. And I was really happy when she came on board, because there was initially a different actress who was a non-actor. It was some Italian model or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God. And then I heard Lydia got cast, and I think we spoke on the phone, and she sounded like such a theater dork, and I was like, okay, this is much better. And so,
yeah, that's so funny. I was it's so important, this relationship between two characters, and because at its heart, it's basically a love story. It's a romance between these two characters, and a tragedy, and it's about one of them falling in love. It is,
right.
And I was like, okay, he's this guy, Markoff, right? I was like Googling him. I was like, oh yeah, he's some cool stuff. But I don't know. I think we have a bit of a, maybe over here, we think, oh yeah, LA actors, are they going to be a bit of a knob or whatever? And now I know so many actors from LA are fucking fantastic, but I hadn't worked with anyone from LA previously.
Yeah.
And talked to Mike on the phone. He sounded great. So I was like, okay, cool. And then he arrived. I think he flew in the day after me. I think I arrived first, and he was staying in the room above me, and I was like on my balcony, and then he just like popped his head over the balcony and was like, Lydia, come and have a coffee with me. And I was like, oh my God. So then I went up to his room, and he had a coffee machine, because he brought his coffee machine with him, because that's like a Mike Markoff classic thing to do. And,
I got one, and I brought in my hotel room just over there.
He's got to bring his coffee machine, and thank fuck, because the coffee, like, I walked into his room, and I was like looking around, and I saw this blanket that had the map of Middle Earth on it. And I was like, is that, Mike, is that a Lord of the Rings blanket that you brought with you to the Caribbean? He was like, yeah, I really love a lot of Lord of the Rings. And I was like, fuck, I love Lord of the Rings. And then we just talked about Lord of the Rings for like, I don't know, an hour and a half on the balcony.
Wow.
And I knew we were going to get along just fine.
That's great. That's a great story.
Yeah, I like to bring my emotional support blanket with me.
Your emotional support blanket. Yeah. Mike, and the elements, you talk about being in the Caribbean, and it sounds beautiful, but when you're out there in the heat of the sun and the water, and did that ever come into play? I mean, where it's difficult to, with the sun down there, it's like intense. And I've been in the Caribbean a few times, and I would imagine that you'd have to have a lot of flagging with the flagging with the lights, and make sure that it doesn't get in your eyes. And how do the elements play into this?
Yeah,
I have to have a parasol.
Oh yeah, she's she's like white over there, and so she had to SPF 100. But it's always, no matter what on set, it's always too hot or too cold or too something or whatever. Luckily, with this production, MSR, the production company that put the whole thing together and executed it, they had like basically purchased this resort and like transformed it into a de facto studio. And so there was a lot of times we didn't really have to go too far. And the island, it's St. Kitts and Nevis. It's small. It's not very touristy on non-cruise ship days, and so the team that we had was mostly made up of locals who were very adept and who you put that together with the great filmmakers that they had around, and things were relatively smooth. I mean, look, we had days where we had to be in the water, and that's always really complicated. I got to learn how to scuba dive, and Lydia got to learn how to be a fucking mermaid, and and so and it's cool. And we were shooting a lot of the times in this protected lagoon or whatever, so we didn't have to worry about like a shark or anything like that. But
think about
but
that.
yeah, no, our but our DP and a couple people did go overboard at one point when they all tried to come out like on a dinghy or something like that, and that was pretty funny.
Mike fell in. Big Mike fell in the water.
Yeah, Big Mike. That's right. Yeah. But other than that, honestly, like I thought it would be hotter. I thought it would be more uncomfortable, and it really wasn't that uncomfortable. And so yeah, it was at the end of the day we got to work in paradise. So that's what it felt like most of the time.
Your last project, or one of the projects that you were on in the series, wasn't so comfortable.
Oh God, yeah, Armenia.
Yeah. So that Caribbean, okay, I'll take the Caribbean, I guess, right?
Yeah.
There was this one beach that we shot on that was like a really great. So all of the beaches were just so amazing. They were so pristine and lovely. And then there was this one scene which was sort of like the big climax scene of the film, and we shot it on this beach, which was pretty grim. And it was probably like where people go to like go dogging or whatever, because there were like used condoms everywhere. There was like trash everywhere. And it was really, I remember it was like really humid and weird. And me and this other character, me and Jeff, who's playing what was the name of his character? Professor Thingy, your mate. Okay, well he plays like Eric's mate. Sure. And he got really dizzy, and I was getting really dizzy, and someone had to go get me like a Coke, Diet Coke, and it was so disgusting. We called it the trash beach. And there was a shot where I was meant to like jump into the sea at the end of the scene, and Lee was like, "Oh, no, you're not going in there. It's disgusting." And I was like, "Lee, I gotta go in."
The people watching it won't even realize that, right?
Yeah.
So talk about Lydia wearing this. I didn't think about this, but as you're talking, I was thinking, how in the world did you had to wear like the suit, right? I mean, like I mean, that can't be comfortable, right? I mean, talk about that.
Yeah, the tail.
Yeah.
I loved the tail. I thought the tail was great. We had two. We had one that was it was like silicone, so it was quite rubbery, and then we had one that was neoprene, which is wetsuit fabric with scales on.
Yeah.
And I wore both of them because I had a stunt double, so we would interchange who was filming. I loved it. You go really, really fast, and I thought it was great. I mean, the only thing is you can't pee, so you just got to make sure that you don't, pee in the tail.
You got to go beforehand.
Bad etiquette. Don't do that. But it was great. I loved swimming in the tail. I would love to do it again.
Yeah, that's incredible. And again, I was curious how that went, because sometimes I'm sure it's uncomfortable to wear things like that. But I want to get into this real quick, Mike. I know you're in a 2023 film called Hitman with Glenn Powell. Talk about that project.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. It kind of harkens back to like when you do something, you can't really control how good it is, and so yeah, that was just cool. Just I knew when we shot it that it was going to be. I mean, I felt good about it or whatever. I didn't think, didn't know it would, sell to Netflix for $20 million. I knew it had a genius filmmaker behind it in Richard Linklater, but his last couple of movies, they didn't make it to any kind of main stage, even if it had like Kate Blanchett in it. So I just figured, oh, here's a cool art house movie I've done. And
right.
Glenn Powell at that time, I'm like, okay, yeah, dude from, Top Gun Maverick. That's cool. Didn't know he'd just blow up to be like, year of 2024 Glenn Powell over there. So yeah, it's been very exciting just being a part of a project that's been out there and a lot of people have seen. And, it's nice getting recognized, at the gym or something like that for it. But yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. Do you see it?
No, I didn't see it, but I read about
You
it. I want to see
son
it.
of a bitch.
I know,
Dave.
right? I brought it up. I didn't even see it.
It's really good. You should see it, Dave.
I will definitely get to that, Mike.
Nah,
But Lydia, I will say, I looked at when I looking at your reel and stuff like that. Being in the UK, when I go out there sometimes in work, in Ramsbury, which is 70 miles west of London. But when I'm out there, I just transported into another world. I really feel like I'm in Bridgerton or in one of those films, like, Downton Abbey. I just feel like because the countryside is beautiful, the castles. And, when you're out there, I know you're kind of immersed in that anyway. So for somebody from here to go there, it's like a movie. But for you, there's studios out there everywhere, and there's some big studios out there. So talk about the filmmaking in London and just England in general, or the UK, because it's just, I don't think people realize there's some of the best studios that are right there in London, the London area. So talk about the opportunities that you have being out there for productions that you do.
Yeah, no, we've got loads of big studios. We've got Pinewood, Elstree, Leedston, a bunch more. And then there's, ones up north, ones down south, big ones in Wales, Manchester. So there's a lot of films that get made in the UK, a lot of TV shows. And we've obviously got the natural settings as well. And then a lot of things get filmed in Ireland or in Europe, Iceland and Croatia and Bulgaria. So I think the UK is a really great place to be acting. Obviously, there's a lot of competition, but, everywhere there's a lot of competition. But it's really great. The bigger stuff, it's obviously harder to get into because it's a bit of a closed shop, unfortunately, depending on who your agent is, what casting directors know you. Do you have any connections? I don't have any connections. So I'm kind of just out here hustling by myself, building my little career, which has been really great because I've got to do some really fantastic indies and then be on some of the productions in the smaller roles, which is really an amazing experience. But loads of stuff gets made here, so it's it's great. Lots of cool shit.
Is that something that you're going to stay in the UK, you think, or are you ever going to make that move to LA, or do you think it's going to be in the UK?
You know what? I don't fancy LA. I don't really like hot weather, and I can't drive, which is a bit embarrassing. But LA, I know you need to be able to drive to get anywhere.
Yeah.
And LA is a trash can of a city, and all the productions have left anyway.
Just go and say what you feel, Mike.
And all the studios are empty, and all the productions have literally moved to Europe and the UK. There's no reason.
So maybe
you guys should all come here.
Unless she fancies the taste of deception, the feeling of being stabbed in the back, and the overall scent of homeless piss, there's no reason to come to LA.
Yeah, I do not fancy it. I'm just going to say
that's well said.
Stay in merry old England. Thank you very much.
It's funny, and speaking of driving, I would never be able to drive in England, like ever. I thought my life was in my hands, many times when I'm in these cars. They're going, like, the roads are so narrow in these little towns. They're going towards each other, like literally towards each other at high speeds. And one will stop and say, okay, you go around, and they're waving at each other like it's no big deal. And I'm like, meanwhile, I'm like, my heart's coming through my chest. I'm like, how did I not just get killed right there?
I know, it's like the little windy roads. It's like, it's an extreme sport, I think, driving.
For sure. So what's next for both of you? Mike, we'll start with you. What are some projects for our listeners to get excited about?
Sure. Yeah. I have got a couple cool things coming out. One of them is this Western called Long Shadows with this really awesome stacked cast of Dermot Mulroney. It's got the fellow from Lord of the Rings. Dominic Monaghan and Jacqueline Bisset, and so many cool actors in this movie. It's a very very new take on a period Western that has to do with if I say it, it kind of gives away the ending, so I'm not going to say it. But anyway, that's called Long Shadows. It's directed by William Shockley. That should be out, I think, sometime in early or mid 2025. And right now I'm on the set of this really cool movie called Croatoan, which is very interesting kind of small town thriller that's based on Native American mythology, and having a really great time. Got short hair and almost have a mustache.
I was gonna say, is that a mustache I see?
Yeah, this is. I'll tell you what, Dave. This is my first time being on the right side of the law.
Oh,
You know, I'm
that's true.
playing a cop, but he's not a good guy. So it's still my typical brand for that. Yeah, and then
That's
a couple
awesome.
a couple other things that'll surface soon that I can't talk about yet. But yeah, other than that, then you know. But just one foot in front of the other. Let's see how the world reacts to the Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. Well, we're excited about that. How about you, Lydia? What are some things that we can get excited about?
Well, I recently just did a period drama in upstate New York, which is an adaptation of one of Nathaniel Hawthorne's classic American novels called The Blithedale Romance.
Right.
Which was written in, I believe it was 1852. So play one of 4 lead characters in that, and that is very interesting. It's quite art house. Probably be out next year sometime. That'll be a pretty fun watch. And did a few pretty cool indies this year as well. One about an American woman who gets kidnapped. That was pretty fun. And I am also the co-writer and producer on a oh god, the genre is really weird. It's a post-apocalyptic pagan folk thriller set in Cornwall about a cult of crow people.
That sounds interesting.
That's pretty cool. So we're going into pre-production for that, and we're planning to shoot next year. And yeah, it's amazing. I love filmmaking, so going into the sort of filmmaking route as well as acting has been really rewarding for me creatively. And I've got a few films that I'll be making next year as a writer and director as well. So
that's amazing. Well, I love both of your work, and I can't wait to see this movie when it comes out. Well, it's actually out now. I'm talking about it's out now. We're recording this previous to that, but it's coming out after the movie actually comes out. So again, for all the listeners, make sure you check out The Little Mermaid from Lionsgate. And do we know yet where they can find the film when it comes out? Is this going to be theatrical, or is it going to be online or streaming?
It'll be streaming. They haven't disclosed where yet.
Okay.
I mean, it'll be known by the time people could watch this, but they know more than us then.
They're going to make a big splash with it, I'm sure.
Yes, we had a whale of a time shooting.
Well, again, thank you both for being on the show again. Like I said, like both your work, and just I love having you both as guests. And thanks. You're always welcome back, and can't wait to talk about the success of Little Mermaid. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks
for having us, Dave. Appreciate it, man.
Bye, Dave.